Hello, everyone. Welcome.
Hello, hello. Imran should be joining us at some point tonight. We don't know when. He had previous engagements, but today it'll be at minimum the two of us.
Yeah.
Welcome, everyone.
Today we're going to be going over Laura Mulvey's Visual Pleasure and Narrative Cinema, which is an essay that, like, everybody on YouTube loves to cite when they're talking about the male gaze.
Yeah, it's the essay that coined the term, and it's a very, very popular term, right? I'm sure just about everyone here is familiar with the term in some context. And the essay has some notable issues with it, especially in terms of how it attempts to utilize psychoanalysis without a very strong understanding of it. And we're going to maybe talk about interesting things about the essay, things that don't quite work about the essay, and then also what we can take away from it.
Yeah, August, you never told me. How did you guys end up looking into this essay before we decided to cover it on stream?
Oh yeah, one of the Breaking Down Patriarchy videos spent a while talking about the male gaze. It was the last one we covered, I think. One
Really?
where she talks about like the internalization of the male gaze. And so I was looking into that because the male gaze is a concept from cinema theory, right? It's from film theory.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really. It's been loosely adapted into like a psychoanalytic or psychological theory, but a lot of the ways that people talk about it is somewhat divorced from the original concept.
Interesting.
The original concept goes the opposite way. It takes psychoanalysis to talk about the way film is structured.
And Mulvey's piece takes cinema to talk about psychoanalysis?
Yeah, that's what I was just the opposite. The thing I was just saying. Mulvey's piece takes psychoanalysis to talk about cinema.
Oh, okay.
Hello, Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday
Sunday rated in.
Welcome, guys.
Welcome. We were just about to get started on the essay.
Mm-hmm. Let me pull it up on screen as you explain the thing to the new people.
Yeah. So for anyone who wasn't here just a couple minutes ago, we're going over the essay called Visual Pleasure and Narrative Cinema by Laura Mulvey that coined the term the male gaze. So if any of you have heard that term before, this is loosely where that comes from. It's the originator of that term. And it has some theoretical issues with it, especially in terms of the ways that it utilizes psychoanalysis.
Particularly Lacan.
Yes.
Unfortunately,
yeah, it does this. Okay. It, as we'll get into it later in the essay, but it attempts to utilize Freud and Lacan in ways that sort of contradict each other. So it's a bit of a confused essay.
Yeah. Unfortunately, neither of us are big Lacan readers, but we've invited some people who might be joining us later who are better readers of Lacan. Hopefully they show up.
Yeah. Before we get started, I do want to quickly shout out Todd McGowan. I don't know if you have a link to that video. We can put it in chat later.
Mm-hmm.
But Todd McGowan made a video on the gaze that's quite helpful, which is a very different concept than the way it's being utilized here in this essay. McGowan is a scholar of Lacan who sometimes makes YouTube videos. He's a professor.
Mm-hmm. I liked the video. It was well scripted and like there wasn't too much going on in terms of the production. I don't want to say it's minimalistic, but it was very straight up.
Yeah. Jimbo says, is that the concept that points out the tendency of visual artists to portray society from a primarily male point of view? That is one of the things it does. Yes. But you'll see it's actually a pretty wide-reaching concept, and it's kind of interesting the way that a lot of the particulars about this essay have not really been sort of upkept in popular discourse, as you might expect. Like a lot of these concepts, as soon as they get translated into popular discourse, become almost like a caricature, right? It's basically a slogan, right? The idea of the male gaze. Thank you, everyone, for your male gaze jokes.
Yes. We appreciate them during Pride Month.
Oh yeah, especially.
Yeah.
With that, we might as well get started. You want to start with the reading?
Okay, let me turn the music off. And yeah, sure. Okay. Visual pleasure and narrative cinema. That's what the essay's called, not the male gaze. Oh, welcome, Brooks. Do you want to join us?
Oh yeah, Brooks.
come join
Yeah,
us.
yeah, Brooks. You're welcome to join either in chat or on stream. I figure you might have some insights on this one. Brooks says, I did a 2-hour breakdown a long time ago about the film Under the Skin, which actually mentions why this version of the concept is shit as a thing. Oh, I didn't know about that.
The movie is fundamental, male gaze made absurd. I don't understand what that means.
Interesting. I think Brooks is saying that it's sort of a like a male gaze push to absurdity.
Like they're using the male gaze to like satirize it.
That's what it sounds like, yeah.
Okay. Anyway, we'll wait for Brooks to get back to us. I'll start reading. Introduction. A political use of psychoanalysis. This paper intends to use psychoanalysis to discover where and how the fascination of film is reinforced by pre-existing patterns of fascination already at work within the individual subject and the social formations that have molded him. It takes as starting point the way film reflects, reveals, and even plays on the straight, socially established interpretation of sexual difference, which controls images, erotic ways of looking, and spectacle. It is helpful to understand what the cinema has been, how its magic has worked in the past, while attempting a theory and a practice which will challenge the cinema of the past. Psychoanalytic theory is thus approach created here as a political weapon, demonstrating the way the unconscious of patriarchal society has structured film form. Hello, Brooks.
One of the first things that was striking to me, hello, Brooks.
Hello.
One of the things that was striking to me upon first reading this is, what is the unconscious of patriarchal society? This is not a term that she goes on to really build out or define. It's sort of like Jungian or something. There's this like generalized unconscious of patriarchal society. I don't. You'll see things like this throughout the article where it's sort of gesturing at like a concept, but not really explicating what that means or how it's related to anything.
Let me highlight that. Unconscious of patriarchal society. In green for
Are we able to
definition.
put a little icon for Brooks so it pops up when he's speaking, or no?
Oh, yes. It will just take me a second. Okay. Library, sources, Brooks. Okay, Brooks already has something uploaded to Reactive.
I do. For fuck's sake, what is this? What is happening?
Let's see, what is the Brooks figurine?
Where do I... Oh, browser input. Create new. This is Brooks avatar.
You should check what it is, because I was in a bad mood during some of these. So
Oh, it's just your head now. There we go.
okay, that.
We'll put you
Okay,
up
just 'cause
over our heads.
It's entirely possible that I put a huge butthole. Like I just was in a mood and just.
Okay, perfect.
There we go. Beautiful.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Oh, I should also share my screen with you guys.
No, I'm good. I got my copy.
Yeah.
I have a copy as well.
Okay. Then I shall not do that. I was thinking that I could read and you guys do the commentary.
Works
Well,
for
that
me.
seems to take a lot of work off your plate.
I just think that I won't have that much to say because this is all new to me. I haven't read the neither the paper nor Lacan very much. So I want to have something to do that is doable for me.
Do what I can.
You mean do what I can?
I'll do what I can to make it interesting.
Okay. Excellent. Are you
We
familiar
should have
with...
Imran in here soon at some point too.
Okay, has he responded to you?
Yeah. He's still dealing with whatever was going on with the dead animal in the yard thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good Lord.
Poor Imran. Okay, I'll keep going. The paradox of phallocentrism and all its manifestations is that it depends on the image of the castrated woman to give order and meaning to its world. An idea of woman stands as linchpin to the system. It is her lack that produces the phallus as a symbolic presence. It is her desire to make good the lack that the phallus signifies. Recent writing in Screen about psychoanalysis in the cinema has not sufficiently brought out the importance of the representation of the female form in a symbolic order in which, in the last resort, it speaks castration and nothing else. To summarize briefly, the function of woman in forming the patriarchal unconscious is twofold. She symbolizes the castration threat by her real absence of a penis, and second, thereby, raises her child into the symbolic. Once this has been achieved, her meaning in the process is at an end. It does not last into the world of law and language, except as a memory which oscillates between memory of maternal plenitude and memory of lack. Both are posited on nature, or on anatomy in Freud's famous phrase. Woman's desire is subjected to her image as bearer of the bleeding wound. She can exist only in relation to castration and cannot transcend it. She turns her child into the signifier of her own desire to possess a penis, the condition she imagines of entry into the symbolic. Either she must gracefully give way to the word, the name of the father and the law, or else struggle to keep her child down with her in the half-light of the imaginary. Woman then stands in patriarchal culture as signifier for the male other, bound by a symbolic order in which man can live out his fantasies and obsessions through linguistic command by imposing them on the silent image of woman, still tied to her place as bearer of meaning, not maker of meaning. I have a lot of questions here.
Go ahead, yeah.
And I don't blame you. It's just the worst writing.
So,
Just
firstly,
the worst writing. God damn it.
What is the paradox of phallocentrism? I mean, she says that its manifestation is that it depends on the idea of the castrated woman to give order and meaning to its world, but that doesn't seem paradoxical. It just
I think the
seems
thing
like a
she's
fact.
I mean,
pointing
it's
to-
fundamentally is in the sentence. Like it is. Hey, we're going to center the phallus by you women who don't have one, because you don't have one, you have issues. Like it's the paradox of phallus. We're centering the phallus by saying you have been necessarily castrated and your meaning is given by not having a phallus.
I
I mean,
thought
that's it's deeply
phallocentrism
paradoxical.
centered the having of a phallus. How does
well, here the
phallocentrism
way that she's
center a
talking
woman?
about it centers the idea of castration, where it's always about the sort of the fear of castration that gives the phallus its meaning, right? That centers things around the phallus. Is that generally right?
It's there's nothing to really respond to yet, because she's not making like a major affirmative claim. They're going to be really tough wording, but she's not like stating something that isn't just built on basically infinitely recursive self-flagellating bullshit.
Right.
So it makes it really tough to know, oh, she means this phallocentrism. I wouldn't go that far. I think she's literally just saying the idea of woman stands as linchpin. It is her lack that produces the phallus as a symbolic presence, her desire to make good the lack that the phallus signifies, which again is, I think, a strained explanation of phallocentrism, if I were to be very kind about it. But it's not, I don't think we're yet at the point where she's making a like theoretical statement that's affirming anything. Not yet.
Yeah, like I wouldn't.
Yeah, I think the
describe
real issues come in
phallocentrism
later.
as this. Okay.
When she starts talking about the mirror stage, I think she gets a couple things strangely, but we'll get to that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she gets a lot very strangely. Womanhood as a thing, if you're going in the Lacanian tradition, is going to be a fraught concept, and it's why she's stating it in a way that I don't think necessarily Lacan did explicitly. I think you could probably pull this from a handful of inferences, but like the idea for Lacan is there's no such thing as the woman that, and which sounds in its own way taken out of context for what it is, but what he means is that we have a normative position, which is maleness, manhood. That's the sort of normative, and women aren't that. You have a necessarily negative position towards that. And so you are juxtaposed as opposition to that due to a lack of it. And that's kind of what she's awkwardly saying here is it is her lack, her non-phallus that produces it as a symbolic presence. The lack produces the symbolic presence of the phallus. And again, in a phallocentric system, that becomes the major master signifier for her. So it is her desire to make good the lack the phallus signifies. So women's relationship to lack is fundamentally different to men's because of how the phallus integrates within it. This is not an easy thing to sort of talk about. That didn't help at all, did it?
I was reading chat at the last second.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
No, that makes sense.
I had another question.
It's just annoying.
So what is the half-light of the imaginary over here?
Sorry, where?
In the middle of the second page.
Oh yeah. Struggle
paragraph.
to keep her child down with her in the half-light of the imaginary.
Yes. What does that mean?
Okay. I mean, this is going to be so. Okay. You know what? It is. I'm going to just give as the A or B pathway. Really painful explanation of complex Lacanian things, or who cares? You can pick a pathway. If you pick who cares, we move on. If you want me to answer it, I can.
I think we want to go deep.
Like it's.
I think we want to go deep on Lacan for this essay. So
for fuck's sake. Okay. There are three registers of things that work together like a big old Gordian knot for Lacan. There is the real, which is that which we cannot access. It is the world as it is fundamentally unmediated. Then we have the imaginary and the symbolic.
Right.
Thus the meaning of imaginary here. So if you're going to forcefully enter properly all three of these, and again, it's not that you deal with the real. You need to be aware that you're not dealing with the real, but you're properly mediated in the trinary here. You have basically accepted master signification, which is the sentence right before. The woman's desire is subjugated to her image as bearer of the bleeding wound. She can exist only in relation to castration. She cannot transcend it. She can only exist in that way. She turns her child. She has a child. She turns a child into the signifier of her own desire to possess this. This is the condition of entry into the symbolic. She has one of two basic paths, and this is, again, spoken at a grand level. And again, I'm saying this not because I agree with any of this in any fucking way.
Wait, hold on a second.
This woman must give.
She enters the symbolic by transferring like her penis envy onto her child.
No. She has to give way to being made secondary to man's existence.
Okay.
The phallocentrism. She gracefully gives way to the word, to the name of the Father and the law. The name of the Father and the law is master signification. It is acceptance of your place. It is the opposite of what a psychotic is. It's that thing that regulates the regulation. Or she has to struggle to keep her child. This is I'm trying to think of various mother-child bad pathological relationships, but more or less just generically grab a few of those and think about them. The mother who struggles to keep her child with her in the half-light of only the imaginary, no symbolic. It is purely in that space that she is, that she exists in the, because she doesn't have entry into the symbolic order, which is the signifying chain, which is the relation of signifiers and the way language is built and all of that. It's purely imaginary, or we might say hysterical. There's a lot of language here that's really fun, by the way. and I'm just apologizing every 2 seconds. But that's it. She needs to accept as a woman her place, which means the phallus, the lack, the signification there, her placement as a woman in the meaning of this, or she will struggle and she has to fight to keep her child with her in this space of the imaginary. She then stands in patriarchal culture as a signifier for the male other, bound by a symbolic order in which man can live out his fantasies and obsessions through linguistic command by imposing them on a silent image of woman still tied to her place as bearer, not maker of meaning. Women bear meaning. They do not make it. They have the wound. They have the gash, the scar. They do not have the penis. They have they have only what is left of not having that. That's the bearer. You bear your vagina is a mark of that, of not having the thing. Jesus Christ. I fucking hate this. I'm sorry. This is the thing I'm trying to explain. I'm not I don't think I'm wrong. It's just very awkward and awful.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Jimbo asks, this seems somewhat dated. When was it written?
This is not that dated.
Yeah, it's 1975.
Mm-hmm.
This is not that dated. As I'm saying it, this is psychoanalytic thought to today. No.
No.
I mean, it is if you've spent time with good philosophers. No, it isn't. I mean, Zizek, I would say, is fairly mainstream and relies really heavily on this. Now, again,
I mean, a lot of film analysis still uses psychoanalysis pretty heavily too, in terms
100%.
of yeah.
And everything I've just said is you mentioned Todd up front. This is Todd's jam. Everything I've just said. Now, there's a lot of issues with the language I'm using because I am not as eloquent as someone who's maybe more versed in it. More recently, Mari Rudy, for example, would absolutely be going down this aisle. She would be saying it fundamentally different than I do, but it is not a different sort of meaning behind the meaning here as a thing.
Oh, hey, I just grabbed Shakespeare, by the way.
Wonderful.
I know Shakespeare had some notes when we were going over the essay before in prep.
I'm not a fan of this essay.
Okay. I think I understand this better.
Oh, it looks like Shakespeare's little Discord figure went in the middle of
oh yeah, I see it.
Of the text. Welcome, Shakespeare.
Now you can hear me.
Oh, there we go. I have to move my Legos around.
Here, I'll read the next part while you move stuff around.
Okay, no. I'm ready in a second. Okay. There's an obvious interest in this analysis for feminists, a beauty in its exact rendering of the frustration experienced under the phallocentric order. It gets us nearer to the roots of our oppression. It brings an articulation of the problem closer. It faces us with the ultimate challenge. How to fight the unconscious structured like a language, formed critically at the moment of arrival of language, while still caught within the language of the patriarchy. There is no way in which we can produce an alternative out of the blue, but we can begin to make a break by examining patriarchy with the tools it provides, of which psychoanalysis is not the only, but an important one. We are still separated by a great gap from important issues for the female unconscious, which are scarcely relevant to phallocentric theory. The sexing of the female infant and her relationship to the symbolic, the sexually mature woman as non-mother, maternity outside of the signification of the phallus, the vagina. But at this point, psychoanalytic theory, as it now stands, can at least advance to our understanding of the status quo, of the patriarchal order in which we are caught. You said, Brooks, what was that about?
Because I hate psychoanalytic or critical views of anything in cinema and narrative. The idea that cinema positions you as a subjectivity through representational space, I think, is fundamentally not how anything works. And so it's
she does this
tiring.
really, really badly throughout the article, in my opinion, in terms of how she positions the idea of the viewing subject. And there's like this one-to-one analogy of viewing and subjectivity. We'll get into that.
Well, another
Um,
thing too is the fact that she imposes, interestingly enough, a binary on Lacan's idea of like when it comes to lack, she imposes a binary onto it because Lacan doesn't do that. When it comes to talking about the subject vis-a-vis lack, it's all subjects, right? So, you know, that's why I brought up the bell hooks thing about the
Um, it
oppositional
it
gaze, but
it isn't necessarily all subjects. Subjectivity isn't necessary. We should be assuming this, but there are pathologies where lack doesn't have the right structuration for Lacan. So it's there are. Uh, I mean, I'm just again. You're mostly right. I'm being pedantic because who the fuck do you think I am? I guess. Hate this. Do you want to talk about anything in here? Because none of this is fun.
no, I think we'll
Um,
move on from here.
Yeah, this paragraph is just her
It's-
saying
it's-
that we can use the master's tools to overthrow him. The way I understand it.
No. She's saying that what she wants to build, and it's at least, again, I'm going to try to steelman as best I can. What she's trying to build here and talk about is psychoanalysis that can actually address female existence or female subjectivity in a way that isn't directly in relation to the phallus. That's kind of the critique she's laying up. As I've read the piece, what I think she's doing in this reading, and again, it's big fucking block of salt because I don't know. It's not like I've like talked to a lot of people about this piece, but she's drawing out a whole bunch of shit from Lacan and binary shit that she's saying there is no third position. There's no way for the woman to exist. Everything here is about man, which, knowing Lacan's history, not exactly far from a reasonable state. So she's saying that ultimately female subjectivity can't be addressed by psychoanalysis as it is, except for the relation to the phallus. And she's like, that sucks. That's what she's saying. She's like, that sucks. And there's a lot more we need to do into that. But for now, we'll use the tools we have. And that's kind of what she's saying she's doing.
right.
Yeah. One of the
Okay.
ways she's talking about it seems to be talking about like trying to understand the real way that patriarchy is constructed through the ways that psychoanalysis has like analyzed some of these relationships, but taking a critical lens to those formations of things like sort of taking it seriously that the symbolic is structured around the phallus, but then problematizing that.
Yeah, I mean, and for Lacan, like the great gap, right? She says we are still separated by a great gap from important issues for the female unconscious, which are scarcely relevant. Phallocentric theory, this is a direct claim Lacan made in Seminar 20 when he talked about the woman and how it exists. Like this is stuff he formalized in like the early 70s. So this is like really alongside sort of this stuff. This because I think Mulvey was English or American. It's definitely, I think, her original language. We're not like reading a translation of it, right?
Correct. Yeah, I believe she's English.
And it wasn't until I think mid 80s before Seminar 20 was translated. So she's gesturing at a problem that is contemporaneously basically becoming part of Lacan's work right prior to his death. And so there's, again, this is one of those things that Lacan talks about, that there's no positive term for woman, only the bard la femme is the idea. Mm-hmm. And she's right that that's an issue with Lacan. Like, again, hey, guess what? Lacan's broken in a lot of different ways. That's yay.
Right.
Yeah. And not only that, but also like Lacan's like the first time that like Seminar 11, if I remember correctly, of Lacan, where he's talking about particularly the mirror stage, but also, the gaze, I should say, when he's talking about the gaze, right, which is not between the male, it's not, again, the binary that she puts in there is not what's there, right? But what I think is interesting is like it comes out in also like the 70s too. It's like 75 or something, I think, is when it comes out in French. I'm not sure when it comes out in English, but I know it was soon thereafter.
Mid to late 80s. It was a decade at least. Like the time frame for Lacan shit coming to English was awful.
Yeah, so
Yeah, and you'll see it later in the essay. There's some very weird appropriations of things.
yes,
That's
yeah,
right.
and I'm definitely saving, a lot of my critique for that. So,
Mhm.
You want to go on to the next part, Richard?
Yes. B. Destruction of pleasure as a radical weapon. I have no idea what that means. As an advanced representation system, the cinema poses questions of the ways the unconscious, formed by the dominant order, structures ways of seeing and pleasure and looking. Cinema has changed over the last few decades. It is no longer the monolithic system based on large capital investment exemplified at its best by Hollywood in the 1930s, 1940s, and 1950s. Technological advances, 16mm, etc., have changed the economic conditions of cinematic production, which can now be artisanal as well as capitalist. Thus, it has been possible for an alternative cinema to develop. However self-conscious and ironic Hollywood managed to be, it always restricted itself to a formal mise-en-scène reflecting the dominant ideological concept of the cinema. The alternative cinema provides a space for the cinema to be born, which is radical, in both a political and an aesthetic sense, and challenges the basic assumptions of the mainstream film. This is not to reject the latter moralistically, but to highlight the ways in which its formal preoccupations reflect the psychical obsessions of the society which produced it, and further, to stress that the alternative cinema must start specifically by reacting against these obsessions and assumptions. A politically and aesthetically avant-garde cinema is now possible, but it can still only exist as a counterpoint.
Actually, good paragraph. Like interesting paragraph. I don't know about good. I should be careful how I talk about things, but this is like a Marxist materialist account of cinema. This is not psychoanalytic. This is not Lacan. This is not like psychoanalytic. This is saying like, hey, there is these realities of the structural, materialist, financial realities of film that has built in certain ways, and she names a couple things, and she will be naming more things as well. And that is actually interesting that she's like talking about it in that sense. And she's like, that's more or less that's what she's doing. Again, I think she's doing it reactively, but it's at least interesting.
yeah, and that's actually something that like people like from post-colonial scholars and others, right? They sort of critique on or criticize, I guess, is the fact that she limits it, right, to like this, like Hollywood under like the Hayes Act, if I remember what it's called correctly, and then like sort of her own sort of time period that but doesn't look at any other sort of cinema either, right? It's sort of like by limiting it so much, that's also what a lot of people had issues with, like beyond just the Marxist analysis, but also like the fact that it's so narrowed down, right? Like it doesn't take into account like the cinema of Japan or the cinema of Mexico or the cinema of other places that hasn't had necessarily the quite capitalistic setup, at least in this exact same way as like a Hollywood, right? At the time.
And I'm pretty sure she was. I'm pretty sure when I say she's British, I think that was her baseline, and so she's almost not even talking about really Hollywood. She's talking about because she was a filmmaker too. She did filmmaking stuff. She was part of a co-op and things like that. So she's very much talking her thing. That she's in the process of, I think, building at this time. I can't remember the timing exactly, but yeah, it's obviously there are issues, but it's at least an interesting start. Yay!
I had a question, but one sec, I'm writing stuff down. Okay, the obsessions and assumptions. What is that?
The obsessions and assumptions,
Yes.
meaning
She says to stress that the alternative cinema must start specifically by reacting against these obsessions and assumptions, which I'm assuming means like those of the dominant ideological concept of the cinema.
so she's building out an idea of the movies she's gonna like what she thinks the avant-garde of the leftist cinema, whatever you want to call it, as a thing. So she's saying more, and again, it's the sentence is much larger. This is not to reject the latter moralistically. She's not rejecting mainstream film moralistically, but highlighting ways that those formal preoccupations of such categorizations, like mainstream cinema or avant-garde, like these things, reflect psychic obsessions of a society which produced it, and further, to stress that the alternative cinema, her cinema, the cinema she wants to make, must specifically make by reacting against those obsessions and those assumptions. Those obsessions and assumptions, again, she's stating cleanly that she believes cinema needs to be made reactively. I think that's weird. But hey, British people, what are you going to fucking do? I mean, I checked. Yeah. But it's basically saying that, like, there is alternative cinema that can exist because of how, Hollywood was becoming more democratized. Like, 70s and 80s was seeing something that was really new. We didn't have home movies in the 50s, not of any note or quality. You couldn't, like, get film. Like, the fucking cameras were insane. If you haven't
Right.
like watched like Wizard of Oz, like a Technicolor camera needed to be inside of a box itself because you couldn't hear anyone speak within like 30 feet of it because it was so fucking loud. It's insane, these huge contraptions. Well,
Yeah, the
the
ones you had to
70s
just
started to
wheel
see.
around, the ridiculous
Yeah, well,
contraptions. Yeah.
Yeah, and you had to have a forklift to move some of these fucking things. But so, like, we talk about the democratization of media creation because everyone's got a phone. Like, there were layers to this. Like, when I was in high school, we had 8mm films. Where prior to that, we had Super 8 and we had digital finally showing up. Though these processes exist in, and this is what she's talking about, technological advances, change in economic conditions. And we can make things that are artisanal. It can also be capitalist. It can be art-based or it can be money-based. So we can say, hey, there's an alternative cinema. However, and that's what, like, her point is, we need to be careful about what we make. It needs to be defined by reacting against not just being mainstream, which is not the point, but instead against mainstream cinema's formal preoccupations and obsessions. The things that mainstream cinema is focused on, we need to work against that as a counterpoint.
Okay.
Which she'll get into later. Yeah.
I'll keep going.
This part is where more of my notes start. So we'll get to
Is
that.
the red outline underline yours?
Yeah.
Okay. The magic of the Hollywood style at its best, and of all the cinema which fell within its sphere of influence, arose, not exclusively, but in one important aspect, from its skilled and satisfying manipulation of visual pleasure. Unchallenged, mainstream film coded the erotic into the language of the dominant patriarchal order. In the highly developed Hollywood cinema, it was only through those codes that the alienated subject, torn in his imaginary memory by a sense of loss, by the terror of potential lack and fantasy, came near to finding a glimpse of satisfaction, through its formal beauty and its play on his own formative obsessions. This article will discuss the interweaving of that erotic pleasure in film, its meaning, and in particular the central place of the image of woman. It is said that analyzing pleasure or beauty destroys it. That is the intention of this article. The satisfaction and reinforcement of the ego that represent the high point of film history hitherto must be attacked. Not in favor of a reconstructed new pleasure, which cannot exist in the abstract, nor of intellectualized unpleasure, but to make way for a total negation of the ease and plenitude of the narrative fiction film. The alternative is the thrill that comes from leaving the past behind without rejecting it, transcending outworn or oppressive forms, or daring to break with normal pleasurable expectations in order to conceive a new language of desire. Interesting.
Go for it.
Keep going?
He mutes
Yeah.
up.
So
There we
she's
go.
she's setting out her her project with this whole article, right? It's that analyzing pleasure or beauty destroys it, and that's her intention here, basically. It's to take this thing that's sort of like a more unconscious satisfaction of desire and turn it into something that's sort of analyzed and can no longer be enjoyed simply, so we can move beyond it, right?
So we can have a new language of desire.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the problem with this form of desire is that it's like patriarchal, hegemonic. Is there anything else she says is problematic with it?
Not up until this point, I don't think.
Okay.
I mean, it's capitalist focused. Like that's the fundamental thing. Is it's what capitalism codes. It's a capitalist mainstream coding that she's aiming at.
Mm-hmm. So she's assuming that
I don't think she picks up
audience
that
is
later.
Marxist then?
No, I think she's making that comment all around. Like that's the previous paragraph. She links the capitalist mode of production fundamentally as part and parcel of this.
Okay.
And again, I hate this. So just to be clear, I fucking hate this. I hate this a lot. Destroying pleasure to make way for a new desire is a really weird negation that I find like objectionable in a bunch of different ways.
Yeah, it specifically relies on this like on these notions of like that are very steeped in the history of psychoanalysis of like unconscious like the singular unconscious that has to be like unaware, all these different weird things.
Yeah, and it's super arrogant because all I can think is like basically she's saying, you don't know what's good cinema and what you enjoy. Let me tell you what to enjoy because what I enjoy is better than what you enjoy.
Okay, that's sort of what I read
fucking
into
hate the
it,
arrogance. So. It's so arrogant.
Yeah, and I think we'll see later, but at bottom, I don't think she offers really that much of a radical alternative either.
No, she offers a genuinely like unpleasant version of film.
Yeah, I think we mentioned.
I mean
later,
that. I mean that when I say that, like what she tries to get is like an unpleasant, unenjoyable non-film, which is like
it reminds me of political lesbians and the whole like rejection of sex thing.
Yeah, a little bit. Like a Dworkin shit.
Yeah.
Well, another thing too, just another thing to just add on this is that there also seems to be like very little room for, I mean, it's going to go more in depth than this, right? But like even the idea of like female pleasure, agency, or anything else, right, isn't really here, right, in what's presented either. And I think that's a huge issue.
Yeah, that's fair.
But the other thing that I wish that I guess could be gone into, I guess that, well, one thing that, with this article kind of doesn't really go into is the fact that psychoanalysis itself, like by E.N. Kaplan, right, criticized psychoanalysis as such, right, as being patriarchal, right? So that reliance has often been, and this is why I brought up like the post-colonial, but also the queer, challenging to this, right? In particular because of audience studies, right? Where they actually try to look at this, because one, I would say, just a quick thing, I do think that it's also kind of strange that she makes it very deterministic, right? This is what it does, right? This is what cinema does, right? I find that a very strange thing to do, but I do think it's an interesting thing to the fact that it doesn't wrestle with the fact that psychoanalysis itself is something which is contested by people that are trying to do the same work when thinking about a post-colonial audience or a queer audience, right? That's kind of also absent. But
yeah, we'll get into this problem in way more detail, but the fact that we're assuming so much of the like symbolic positioning of the male and the female and all of this within the like heterosexual
that's
order.
The fundamental thing with her. She is everything is already coded as one of these, and the only reason it's coded, like again, this is the challenge with this reading of Lacan, is it becomes incredibly reactionary. And this is why, like, I made the comment, if you haven't seen the film Under the Skin, everyone should see it. It's a phenomenal movie. And the reason I adore it for this, I sent August, and if you want to post that so people can listen, I did a big breakdown of it with a couple friends of mine on a podcast like 5 or 6 years ago, maybe 7 years ago now. Scarlett Johansson's in it, and it's a male gaze. It's a film about the male gaze fundamentally, and ScarJo, when she was this was like 10, 15 years ago, full nude in it, which is not something she's done since. And yet no one has heard of this film because it is not sexy. It's not like she's an attractive person, but it's not like it's done in a sexy way. It's actually
not titillating. Yeah.
It is not titillating. And that's the point of the film. And the reason I think the film fundamentally undoes everything she talks about here is because there's no erotism inside of how that film portrays, because it does push you into viewing. It's not male gaze. We call it male gaze because we name these things, but it is fundamentally constantly producing non-titillating versions of the thing because it forces you to be a viewer of your own existence. There are scenes in it that are, if you haven't watched it, it's amazing. Again, wonderful film. And as you're watching, you'll see there are scenes where Scarlett Johansson, who is an alien, who is recruiting men to be consumed alive by an oily substance. So she gets like guys to want to fuck me, and they go, yeah, and they come back and they get killed.
Oil.
Spoilers. It doesn't matter. Not the point. The scenes where she's driving around and doing that are real. They actually had her drive around fucking like Scotland at night in a fucking van and offer to fuck guys.
Shit. I heard about this. That's so
and
insane.
It's one of the most it's because again, she's a beautiful woman, pulls up, and you can see these guys go, what like what? And it's because again, it's if it's a male gaze, and that's kind of the point of the movie, is if it's a male gaze and it is this automatic erotism, then this is everything you want. It's this perfectly attractive woman who's famously attractive, completely nude, showing her body, offering to fucking suck everyone. And there's nothing sexy about the entire movie. And it's genuinely like emotionally depressing and odd and wonderful. But like that thing is like that's what to me shows it's not really the male gaze. It's a power gaze. But again, it's about how it's structured, and that's what the film plays with. And that's why I hate any take like this, where it's immediately presuming that it is, it's male gaze because it's the gaze in power. Yeah. And it's like no.
Back on the sort of like heavy use of the like symbolic order shit.
Exactly. It presumes, when you're talking about phallocentrism, if phallocentrism presumes itself. Well, we're literally going through this. Our AO reading today was about the way machines produce machines. And it's this wonderful piece, very simple, where they say the machine cuts. That's it. But when that cut happens, when that slice happens, and they use the example of a deli slicer with a big thing of ham. They actually use this as the example. You see the ham slice, and you presume on the other side there was all of this infinitely large hot ham hock is kind of the fucking language they use, but there isn't. And so when we see our slice, and that's what this does, is it's saying, hey, look, here's these phallocentric things, but you're talking about a moment that you're presuming everything else is built into. And it's really incredible.
Right. There's suddenly no escape for it, which it gets back to some of the other comments about how this necessarily is not talking about queer people or even women and the agency and everything within all of these systems, because you're presuming all of the things around it fit into the same order. Someone in chat mentioned the substance as well.
Oh, substance. The substance uses the male gaze, and I think it's one of those things. Like I've had conversations about the substance with straight identifying women of all types, and I'm like, there are scenes in there that if you are not titillated, then you're asexual, because it doesn't matter if you're straight or not. There's straight up like attraction, overdone sexuality, like bleeding through its fuck energy and an incredible power. And the substance plays with that because it immediately turns that into this horrifyingly non-sexy thing. So again, is it male gaze that women are then taking part in, or is it more just the structuration of what arousal means and how the gaze functions that's built within the medium of cinema, which would be my argument, which is not my argument. That would be a bunch of smarter people like Deleuze than me who make that comment. But that tends to be how I look at things too. I don't really like this predetermined. Oh, it's a dude. It's for dudes. It's dude stuff. It's like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Shall we go ahead with the next couple paragraphs?
Let's.
Yeah. 2. Pleasure in looking/fascination with the human form. A. The cinema offers a number of possible pleasures. One is scopophilia. There are circumstances in which looking itself is a source of pleasure, just as, in the reverse formation, there is pleasure in being looked at. Originally, in his 3 essays on sexuality, Freud isolated scopophilia as one of the component instincts of sexuality, which exists as drives quite independently of the erotogenic zones. At this point, he associated scopophilia with taking other people as objects, subjecting them to a controlling and curious gaze. His particular examples center around the voyeuristic activities of children, their desire to see and make sure of the private and forbidden, curiosity about other people's genital and bodily functions, about the presence or absence of the penis, and retrospectively about the primal scene. In this analysis,
Pause real quick.
Mhm.
Can we just say what the fuck, Freud? Real quick.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Oh,
What do you
just
mean?
the fact that he identifies this as specifically like sexual pleasure, I find telling, I guess.
Sexual
No, he says
means libidinal.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not like fuck pleasure, it's enjoyment.
Yeah.
Mhm.
This is to me, scopophilia has always been straight up stolen from Nietzsche. Like the enjoyment of watching. The way that scarification worked for Nietzsche, and that it's not, the eye that watches as well as the one that's in, the body that's having it done. That's scopophilia. It's the enjoyment of watching, particularly. That's what scopophilia means. The enjoyment of looking.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, isn't that what like then Sartre sort of builds up in La Nausée, right? Like when he has that scene where what happens when the scopophile or the peeping tom or whatever, right, gets caught, right, looking in through the peephole, right?
Yeah.
in an interesting way. So.
Well, and I'd even say that this is like good Freud. This is three essays, right? So this is early shit, where he's, I mean, this is the stuff that DNG takes straight up and go, yeah, there's no unified ego. There's no organization here. There's no primacy around genitalia. It is everything looking around, doing that thing.
I like that much better. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You really think that the concept of scopophilia is stolen from Nietzsche? Because I've independently been fascinated by, I guess, what is called scopophilia.
I would make the argument it was maybe Freud claims he never read Nietzsche, but he loved Nietzsche. He owned all of Nietzsche. He hated Nietzsche. Whatever. I think scopophilia is something that you could probably tie to a Nietzschean idea or two, or other thinkers around. It wasn't just Nietzsche. Like, again, perspectivism, the way sight works, the way viewing works. Not just him. There's a long history of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Humey. It's a little Humey. Like, there's a few others. But I think.
Okay, I'll keep reading. In this analysis, scopophilia is essentially active. Later, in Instincts and Their Vicissitudes, Freud developed his theory of scopophilia further, attaching it initially to pregenital autoeroticism, after which the pleasure of the look is transferred to others by analogy. There is a close working here of the relationship between the active instinct and its further development in a narcissistic form. Although the instinct is modified by other factors, in particular the constitution of the ego, it continues to exist as the erotic basis for pleasure in looking at another person as object. At the extreme, it can become fixated into a perversion, producing obsessive voyeurs and peeping toms, whose only sexual satisfaction can come from watching. In an active, controlling sense, an objectified other. At first glance, the cinema would seem to be remote from the undercover world of the surreptitious observation of an unknowing.
Before you move on to the next
victim.
paragraph, is there any questions on that? Because there's a fucking ton of stuff.
There's a lot.
I ended up looking a bit into autoeroticism. I think this part is important, after which the pleasure of the look is transferred to others by analogy. So here Freud, at least the way that I'm reading it, is he's saying that there's like a way that you're having the pleasure of being looked at by looking at other people. Is that by analogy? I'm not exactly sure.
I think what they're saying is that we speak of it and transmit that gaze to others through analogy.
Okay.
That's how I understand that sentence. It's not a great sentence, but that's how I take it. Let me reread it 1 second. Which by analogy, the pleasures of the look. That's how I take it. Yeah, I'm going to say that's how I take it. That it's to use better terminology for how I would gather it. It is the gaze itself and the experience of the gaze is commuted into code of everyday signs and spoken to other people, so that way it can be transferred, more or less. I think, because again, this is one of those things that is like
I'm not sure because.
No, as I'm rereading it, it might not be. It's really awkwardly written.
Yeah, because I remember looking into this a little bit, where the autoerotism being transferred into like the viewing of others. Because I think he's talking about here like the satisfaction of being looked at gets transferred to the other. I'm not positive on that, but that's.
Later in Instincts of Vicissitudes, Freud developed his theory of scopophilia further, attaching it initially to pregenital autoeroticism, after which, by analogy, the pleasure of the look is transferred to others. Okay. He might be saying that the later forms of it are compared to the earlier one. So a child enjoys looking at their own body. And again, this doesn't have to necessarily be outright sexual. It's just exploration. Right. And it's exploration. That structure is extended to someone else's body through analogy. So the child's fascinated looking and getting enjoyment from looking at their own body, and then they enjoy looking at someone else's. The looking drive is starting autoerotically, and then by analogy, that same drive is transferred outwards to someone else through their gaze or through my gaze looking at them. So it's not it's not identity. That analogy here has to mean some semblance of like the way something structurally seems similar, right? So
there's an identification of a similarity.
Yeah, so the person on the other side is treated as though they're occupying the same position as when they're looking at something as when I'm looking at my own body. That's how the economy of pleasure has to work here for this, I think.
Yeah, this becomes important later, especially, but even here, because it the autoeroticism part of it is important for her and Freud's discussion of narcissism.
Yeah, it's going to be. And by analogy. I think that's what it means. I think I'm going to say yes. I think we got it right at the end there. Sorry.
One thing I just want to add really quickly about with Freud, though, is like one thing about scopophilia, like in the 3 essays, it's an active thing, right? Like the idea of scopophilia, it's the ability to take others as objects, right, and subjecting them to that controlling, curious gaze, right? So I think you're right, Brooks, in that like the pleasure of the look, right, is turning it outward from a sort of self-pleasure to the objectification of others. So I think you're right in that.
And we do it by analogy. It's an awkward use of analogy there, though. Really?
Yeah, awkward. It is. But
that's kind of what I expect from the rest of this piece, though. So that's fine. That's my version of talking shit. So.
Where did we leave off, Richard? Sorry for.
I'll restart the next paragraph.
Yeah, interrupting rudely
At first glance, the cinema would seem to be remote from the undercover world of the surreptitious observation of an unknowing and unwilling victim. What is seen of the screen is so manifestly shown, but the mass of the mainstream film and the conventions within which it has consciously evolved portray a hermetically sealed world which unwinds magically, indifferent to the presence of the audience, producing for them a sense of separation and playing on their voyeuristic fantasy. Moreover, the extreme contrast between the darkness in the auditorium, which also isolates the spectators from one another, and the brilliance of the shifting patterns of light and shade on the screen, helps to promote the illusion of voyeuristic separation. Although the film is really being shown, is there to be seen. Conditions of screening and narrative conventions give the spectator an illusion of looking in on a private world. Among other things, the position of the spectators in the cinema is blatantly one of repression of their exhibitionism and projection of their repressed desire onto the performer.
Yeah, I hate this. This was the part in the essay where I'm like, okay, what?
This is the part?
Really?
I mean,
This?
it
It has
has
some dumb shit later. Sorry.
Yeah, no, but as in when I was first reading through it, this is like, wait, what? How do you the idea that the viewer is just this like one-to-one
Oh, I hate it.
and is taking on the position of like part of the thing of a peeping Tom is that they're like the subject is unaware that they're being viewed, and there's like a sexual satisfaction in that, right? But film
Charge.
Right. But film is completely separated from that because you have this. If you wanted to go that way, you'd have to get like structural and Marxist with it. You'd have to talk about like the incentives around the production of film. But she doesn't really do that here. But
So let me steal man. Let me try to steal man. Let me try.
Sure.
I'm gonna try. I know kids don't go to theaters anymore, but theaters are weird, dark rooms where no one is supposed to look at each other or really acknowledge the person next to them unless you know them. And even then, you shouldn't really ever turn your head. We're not really allowing each other to exist in a space where we are part of a communal experience. And again, just to be very specific, American, British, white movie theaters, very much this was the norm for like 50, 60 years. So the way that these things work is it's a sealed room. People don't just freely get to come in. No one talks. You're not really spoken to. You're not really identified. And so that repressed exhibitionism is projected into the performer in this safe space for that. And that's kind of what she's saying. Is it good? No.
right,
But
yeah.
I think that's kind of her point, and it kind of works.
If I may just quickly add
Part
like
of why
an
I hate it,
interesting
though,
kind of textual bit. Oh, please go ahead.
is
August,
because it only kind of works. And when you start digging deeper, it's like, well, is the person actually like a passive consumer? Is the person being viewed actually like an unknowing, like in the assumption of something like a peeping Tom? Are they like an unknowing receptor of the gaze? Like, not really. That's not how any of that really works. Is the person not
It's terrible.
actively identifying and building meaning in their viewing of the film? Like it just, yeah, I don't like any of that. And
No, it's
just
terrible
a
because
one-to-one
it fundamentally presumes that the subjectivity of the person watching is the primary object of cinema. It's
Right.
not.
Yeah. And that the primary, not only just that it's the subject of the person watching, but it's this singularized version of that where it's like this universal subject watching as opposed to this. It's not even like a more complicated version where it would have like a particular of a person like relating to it, right? It can only be this like universalized structural subject that has nothing that they're bringing to the film.
Right, and this is actually one of the criticisms that a lot of people have had, either other feminists, but also even like I said, post-colonial queer scholars, because it's like it kind of imposes this view, right, that there's like a universal cis hetero white male gaze that just is there, right? It doesn't allow for it is the only thing that it ever sort of acknowledges as being active in the scopophilia, because that's the thing, scopophilia has to be active, right? So it's like an interesting thing, the fact you're bringing up this like, oh, passive. It's like, well, it couldn't be perverted, right? Like brought into perversion without it being an active thing. So it's like you kind of can't be passively a peeping tom. You have to be actively one, at least in the scopophilic sense, right? Um, and if I may just really quickly, just adding some really interesting context, because I think this, might be of interest, but, you know, um, American movie theaters, the reason why they're like the way they are is actually because of someone whom Nietzsche had a huge problem with, who initially was great friends with Richard Wagner. He is the one that actually
Yep.
started theaters to have like the stadium seating turning off, because before an opera, an opera buffa, before this, they did have the lights on. People did talk to one another, and he
Oh,
hated that.
people would
Wagner
people
hated
would
that.
buy tickets. People would buy tickets for movies prior, like right prior to that change. They'd buy tickets to go in, and the movies would kind of just play all day. And so you'd
Mhm.
often have people show up like halfway through a movie and like stick around and then watch the first half, and then like it was a completely different, like unrecognizable thing to what we have now.
Right, and even if you go to just prior to this, just in the opera stage, people used to do that too. Like this is actually what happened when it came to, I believe it was Lohengrin, but it might be wrong, but it was one of his operas, and he didn't like it. No, it was Tannhäuser, I think. Yeah, Tannhäuser. So they told him, well, the Jockey Club of Paris doesn't come in because they're out with their mistresses, right? So they don't come in until Act Two. So can you put the ballet, like the most alluring erotic part, right, in Act Two? And he's like, no, I'm gonna put it in Act One, right? And so then after that, they try to like mess up his opera. They literally like made it close early and everything, because it was just like hard. Like they would come in with noisemakers, all the stuff. But it's Richard Wagner that literally theorized this in artwork in pardon me, opera of the future, or music of the future, I think is what it's called. Because I know that there's artwork of the future, but that's where he talks about the Gesamtkunstwerk. But yeah, like the idea of like even something that now we think is completely natural, like the conductor of an orchestra facing away from the audience. That's as old as Wagner as well, right? Like that whole thing too. So that's why people also credit him with creating the movie score, right? Like the movie soundtrack kind of thing. But yeah, so it's an interesting thing that someone whose ideas, and certain ones, right, later came to influence people that were, much more fascistic, keeping up with the comments that were brought up earlier. It is an interesting thing to think about, right? It was there to get rid of conversation, and instead, revive these classical ideals of like, of the stage being almost semi-divine, right? So I find that fascinating.
I get that theaters used to be different, and it's possible for them to be more community oriented in the future or in different like geographical contexts. But what's the problem with Mulvey describing things as they were in that moment?
Oh, in her describing them as hermetically sealed,
Hmm.
that is? Yeah, well, the main thing is that by doing so, right, it underplays other complexities, right? Like um, reciprocal looking, right? It also leaves little room for other things like, for example, non-objectifying pleasures or female scopophilia, right? And also going back to that idea of like mutual gazes, right? Like that's one of the things is like by putting us in a hermetically sealed room, right? It operationalizes scopophilia, right? And that's why I brought up earlier, right? It kind of puts a telos into it. It kind of does that with it, where like, oh, this is what cinema does, right? And that's one of the issues that people have had with the placing of it in these things, because it's like, well, this was meant to cut away at those things, right? At the ability for mutual gaze, at the ability. So why take that as the standard? Is some of the critique when it comes to like audience reception studies, things like that.
I see.
Shall we go on to paragraph B?
Sure. Okay. B. The cinema satisfies a primordial wish for pleasurable looking, but it also goes further, developing scopophilia in its narcissistic aspect. The conventions of mainstream film focus attention on the human form. Scale, space, stories are all anthropomorphic. Here, curiosity and the wish to look intermingle with the fascination with likeness and recognition. The human face, the human body, the relationship between the human form and its surroundings, the visible presence of the person in the moment, of the person in the world. Jacques Lacan has described how the moment when a child recognizes its own image in the mirror is crucial for the constitution of the ego. Several aspects of this analysis are relevant here. The mirror phase occurs at a time when the child's physical ambitions outstrip his motor capacity, when the result at his recognition of himself is joyous in that he imagines his mirror image to be more complete, more perfect than he experiences his own body. Recognition is thus overlaid with misrecognition. The image recognized is conceived as the reflected body of the self, but its misrecognition as superior projects this body outside of itself as an ideal ego, the alienated subject, which, re-interjected as an ego ideal, gives rise to the future generation of identification with others. This mirror moment predates language for the child. So the way I understand it, she gets the mirror stage wrong.
Wrong is going to be too simple.
It's just that there's a lot to unpack because of the way how she's presenting it. Because the mirror stage isn't a one and done thing. Like that's one of the things Lacan actually gets into is the fact that, and even beyond that, right? It's like later on, like this was even in the mid-70s, like Lacan even says it's not about a literal mirror, right? It's not about a literal one, like it's not some epiphanic.
It kind of is.
Well, it is, but what I'm saying is that like it's more than that, right? Like that's kind of what he's trying to get at, because some people thought of it as like, oh, like you sort of you either go through it or you don't, right? And it's like it's more than that. There's more to it than that, and that is that it's not the formation of a stable ego, right? That it just happens in that epiphanic moment, but rather it's part of that ongoing process of méconnaissance, right? Of misrecognition, right? But it's a process. Right, and it's through that there is alienation, right, fragmentation, as opposed to this fundamental unity that suddenly appears out of nowhere, right? So,
what is misrecognition as you just used it?
So that would be those things about alienation and also fragmentation, right? When it comes to the creation of a stable ego, among other things, but that's one of the things, at least from what I understand.
At least what I understand, it's like this viewing of the outside of like a wholeness that's not. It's the break between experience and representation. Is that generally right?
I mean, okay. I mean, again. One of the things that's tough about this is it's important to realize as he's talking about this in his seminars and as he's writing about it, he's being extremely particular about the mirror stage and the reason my understanding is it doesn't necessitate a mirror, but it is the viewing of that makes it so specific. It's why he calls it mirror stage. A child sees themselves in the mirror and they have delight in that, but it's delight in a very particular way. When we're old. You go look in a mirror. Great. Fun. But there's a moment, especially as you're early on, and it's where she's kind of getting some things. Children don't understand that they move their arms. It's really hard to sort of get that across. They don't really think like we don't think move arm up. I'm moving it over. I'm typing. I'm talking, whatever. It's a lot more automatic. Infants don't have this. They're trying to understand what it even means to have it. And so when they move, or when the sensations fire off towards moving, they have like an imperfect version of it that they experience personally and bodily. You see that like you have these things, but it's not really a whole body because there's really no edge, not from your perspective. When you see in the mirror that you're moving things, and again, think of it as the like magician's illusion that you see in like all those movies where it's like the guy in the mirror who moves exactly the same as the guy who's looking at him, and it's like, what the fuck? I'm controlling that thing that joke that sort of is very much what the child experiences, but they experience it by being able to see a whole self, an entire person, and an entire organism as a thing. So the mirror image is experienced as more complete because it is from the perspective they're seeing it from, certainly. But as they're like she says, their physical ambitions outstrip motor capacity. These kids aren't running. This is early shit. This is like 18 months, very early in their life, even earlier, like 8 months, I think, at times. They can't fully manage their bodies. So when they see the mirror image, their pleasure exists because the image of it seems whole. It seems coordinated because it looks coordinated. It looks organized. It looks stronger than the way they directly experience their clumsy, stupid little bodies.
And we'll continue to have it be clumsy and such. But
right.
one thing,
but that's the thing. We're talking about the imminent experience of it, not that they. Because again, when people talk about this, they often conceptualize, they see it in the mirror, and they don't understand things. That's not how it works. Recognition, and this is why the other part's important. Recognition is the moment where they go, "Oh fuck, that's me." The misrecognition is when they go, "That's a better me." That's the fuck up. And this is why it's important. Lacan goes out of his way to break apart the ideal ego and the ego ideal, which I fucking hate. That this is how fucked Lacan is. It makes less sense in French. I shouldn't even say that. But the ideal ego is the imaginary. It's the narcissistic self-image that's derived from the mirror stage. That's the ideal ego. The ego ideal is actually the symbolic function that is ties to the gaze of the other from which one is seen. And that's the displacement that we were talking about a moment ago. So one is imaginary narcissistic self-image I see in the mirror. And then by analogy, we'll just use her words because it's what we're talking about, I derive how others see me from that. And that's the ego ideal. And this is the two sides of that. It sucks.
Okay.
Okay. Wait, does the
Ego
ego
ideal.
ideal give rise to the future generation of identification with others, then?
All of these things are within their own parts. So the ego ideal is basically what distinguishes and again, how it's set up. It's mostly symbolic register. Ideal ego is mostly imaginary register.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because that is one thing that I was going to say is that one thing that makes this very tenuous is the fact that she's making this leap from the mirror experience, right, of the mirror stage to an adult film spectatorship, right? Because film viewers don't have that that sort of misrecognition, I guess, to put it that way, right? But méconnaissance, right, with themselves and the image embodied in the same way that the child does, right? The infant does in the mirror stage. So I that is one issue I have. Like I wish that a bit more could have been put on that to make that connection firmer, because it feels like a bit of a stretch to say that these two things are born from the same.
She's leaning very heavily on Lacan, and that's the problem. Is Lacan is, we'll just say, difficult to lean on because it doesn't really give people a lot of stuff to sort of go with. And that's like, again, she makes the very quick move from, and that I bring it up, the ideal ego, which is that imagined perfect version that is defined by the mirror stage, to ego ideal, which is what I understand when other people are looking at me that I must live up to. And that identification with others, that thing that is built into it is that, like, again, she's leaning heavily on this very particular thing where she's saying that cinema, it's not only pleasing by letting us look. What it does is it gives us these images, and I'm using that term specifically because we're in the imaginary register, that we're able to identify with as idealized images of ourselves, the same way we enjoyed seeing the complete body of ourself and that type of thing within the imaginary. This is why she's leaning on these registers very particularly.
Okay, yeah. So like you see the character that's able to handle things in a way that you aren't, or is maybe the ideal of the way that you would like to handle things. And that would be sort of a reflection of the ego ideal.
I think it's more complicated than just, oh, I wish. It's more,
Okay.
The same way that an infant doesn't like recognize, oh, look at how much that's a perfect version in comparison to my clummy, stupid body. That's not really how it works inside of the head of infants, obviously. They're just
Right.
more, oh, that doesn't have all of these rough edges. I experience rough edges, and this is more effective as a thing. We're still in the
Right,
imaginary. This
okay.
is not the symbolic. And so as such, it's when one is looking at cinema, as she's talking about here, and I think you could argue this is within the realm of these things. I've read Todd's stuff. I think Todd would probably agree somewhat with this, that the other part, and that's the other half, the symbolic register, is how how others see me and how I see how others see me. Fuck, I hate this. And that complexity I'm then looking at and enjoying because I'm seeing how others might see me, but it's not directly just this is how others see me, but I'm able to enjoy it as a vehicle for that passage. Fuck, I hate this so much.
Okay. I think that makes sense, but
Fuck, I hate this. Dude, I hate this shit so much.
yeah.
It's just like, hey, look, mechanisms with intrinsic meaning, fuck off. Like, it makes me like, just immediately it hurts me. And I'm just like, cool.
You want to go on to the next paragraph, Richard?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think what Brooks was that puts people off of psychoanalysis a lot. Mechanisms shouldn't have inherent meaning.
Oh, you're about to get to that one. I already sort of read ahead, and was kind of like this one. Like, again, I have so many. I'm just trying to stay within the idea, and the idea is interesting as a thing. I'm just trying to give it credit because
Okay, we'll get there. Important for this article is the fact that it is an image that constitutes the matrix of the imaginary, of recognition/misrecognition and identification, and hence of the first articulation of the I, of subjectivity. This is a moment when an older fascination with looking, at the mother's face, for an obvious example, collides with the initial inklings of self-awareness. Hence it is the birth of the long love affair/despair between image and self-image, which has found such intensity of expression in film, and such joyous recognition in the cinema audience. Quite apart from extraneous similarities between screen and mirror, the framing of the human form and its surroundings, for instance, the cinema has structures of fascination strong enough to allow temporary loss of ego, while simultaneously reinforcing the ego. The sense of forgetting the world, as the ego has subsequently come to perceive it, I forget who I am and who I was, is nostalgically reminiscent of that pre-subjective moment of image recognition. At the same time, the cinema has distinguished itself in the production of ego ideals, as expressed in particular in the star system, the stars centering both screen presence and screen story, as they act out a complex process of likeness and difference. The glamorous impersonates the ordinary. What is image recognition?
huh.
Which thing?
Image recognition. It's in
Where's that?
the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 lines from the bottom. On the right side.
Okay.
The sense of forgetting the world as the ego has come to perceive it, I forgot who I am and where I was, is nostalgically reminiscent of that pre-subjective moment of image recognition. The mirror stage.
The mirror, yeah.
The mirror stage. Mirror stage leads to subjectivity.
Right.
So wait, what is it?
So she's saying that, like, losing yourself in the cinema is nostalgically reminiscent of the pre-subjective moment that sort of produces the subjectivity in the mirror stage.
Oh, okay.
Found in the mirror stage.
So image recognition as in like recognizing yourself in the mirror.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
I got to tell you though, Well, at the same time, the cinema has distinguished itself in the production of ego ideals. That's a misuse. That's a misuse. Cinema can't produce ego ideals. It's producing ideal ego, but that's a different thing. So she's fucked up already. That's great. That's literally the opposite one. That's the opposite thing. Jesus Christ.
By the way, can you
Okay.
remind me of what ego ideal and ideal ego are, respectively?
Lacanian stupid shit. I'm sorry, you want specifics?
Yes. Ego ideal is which one is
okay.
the one that's like the perfect version of
So
self?
it's tough because it works. It doesn't work better in French, but it kind of helps to understand it in terms of the way that French language works. The ideal ego, as I've commonly seen it written in English, tends to mean the imagery that is built out of that mirror stage. So you have you see in the mirror this complete body that's perfect, that doesn't have all the awkwardness internally, and it kind of creates this image, this fantasy with PH, like the phantasm, fantasy, imaginary thing that is the ideal ego. It's imaginary, it's image based. Ego ideal, as I've always seen it written, is symbolic register function, right? It's symbolic register, always for the function of symbolic register, and it specifically has to do with the way that the ego ideal, the way the other. I look in the mirror, I see an image. That image is a thing that I idealize and I turn into me as an image. Therefore, other people look at me and I immediately effectively get the experience of understanding that other people are looking at me. When they look at me, they must be doing the same thing. Therefore, I need to understand what they're seeing. And that is the ego ideal, the image others are seeing that I need to live up to, basically. And I'm probably fucking it. And by the way, I literally might be just completely backwards. I don't think I am. I fucking hate this stuff.
Okay.
Sorry.
We're going to assume that you're
I love it.
correct
Thanks for having me.
We're glad you could join. It's it gets worse, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, no, it gets way worse. But like, I actually think I'm gonna Google it and check it out. But I'm pretty sure this is the opposite, because the ego ideals is not what's made in cinema. Cinema can't. That makes no sense. It makes no sense.
Yeah, and another thing too is that she's downplaying. I mean, not really noting, right? Lacan's stress on méconnaissance, like that is very important for the mirror stage, right? And as he talks about it in Seminar 9, as well as in later seminars. I think you mentioned Seminar 20.
Seminar 20 is the film Le Film.
Je vois.
La Film. Sorry, I say it really stupid because it's funny to me.
But like the gaze, right, which is, at the heart of one of the important things here, is that it disrupts this illusionary wholeness, right, of the mirror stage, right, or at least or rather one of the things she's getting at, right, because she's leaning so heavy, and you're right, Brooks, on the imaginary, right, and is and seems to be very optimistic about mastery / pleasure, right, sort of. Again, I don't want to get too deep into Lacan, because that's always the problem, right? It's once you start, it's like, oh, but then petit objet.
No, and I've been doing this. Tropical Stuck is wanting wanting to do like baby's first Lacan. Like, here, let's explain how Lacan works so people can have an entry point. And I'm offering like a scaffolding as we do it. It's going to be we have a really fun way we're wanting to do it. But it's the trouble is, like, the first thing we have to go over is there are 3 Lacans. And I don't mean that, and this is like one of the best things about Lacan too. As I say this, which sounds like I'm complaining, this is the thing I admire him the most for. There are 3 fundamental stages Lacan went through in his own thought. And instead of being a bitch and not changing, he fundamentally went, oh fuck, I have a new idea that fundamentally changes everything. Fuck it all. And he like burned it all to the ground and started again. And he did this 2 times. So you kind of have 3 Lacans that do not work across each other. And it's the coolest thing, but it means that it's like saying there are 3 dudes. You can't just talk about one dude. You got to talk about all 3 dudes. And it's really nightmare.
Yeah. No,
and this is one of those. This is the late stuff. The late stuff is like fundamentally like touches on and builds on some things, but works wholly against other shit that he talks about completely.
Mhm.
Wow.
I'm writing a piece right now. This sucks. I've been writing this. God damn it. Why am I doing this? Why am I here?
Okay,
Shall we go on to the next section
let's go on.
before we give Brooks an existential crisis too badly?
Sections 2A and B have set out two contradictory aspects of the pleasurable structures of looking in the conventional cinematic situation. The first, scopophilic, arises from pleasure in using another person as an object of sexual simulation through sight. The second, developed through narcissism and the constitution of the ego, comes from identification with the image seen. Thus, in film terms, one implies a separation of the erotic identity of the subject from the object on the screen, active scopophilia. The other demands identification of the ego with the object on the screen through the spectator's fascination with and recognition of his like. The first is a function of sexual instincts, the second of ego libido. This dichotomy was crucial for Freud. Although he saw the two as interacting and overlaying each other, the tension between instinctual drives and self-preservation continues to be a dramatic polarization in terms of pleasure. Both are formative structures, mechanisms, not meaning. In themselves, they have no signification. They have to be attached to an idealization. Both pursue aims in indifference to perceptual reality, creating the imagized, eroticized concept of the world that forms the perception of the subject and makes a mockery of empirical objectivity. Okay. Do we have anything to say here?
Oh my God, we have to.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Like
God,
there's
my-
a lot, there's so much said here. And not even like in a way to complain, like in a, if we don't, I don't think we can get through more kind of thing. She says outright, hey, look, we're in section C. I've just said two different things that seem to be really against each other, which they do. They have these problem. On the one hand, scopophilia, where we've separated subject and object.
Mhm.
And then opposed to that is fusing subject and object, which is ego libido identification, as she talks about it. These are structures that are formative. And as she says, at least she says this, don't have intrinsic meaning until they're attached to an idealization. Less interesting there, at least it starts something. But they're both indifferent to the way we perceive things. Perceptual reality is not like at play here. That's what she's saying. So she wants to take these things that seem to be in contradiction to each other, are fundamentally in contradiction to each other. And she wants to talk about them within cinema and force us to, I would use the word tarry, but to allow the tension dialectically to exist that cinema is here to resolve. There's a huge claim inside of this. There's a lot actually, but that's kind of what she's saying. And I'm trying to say it in a way that works for language.
I'm not, I think that's a very generous read of this.
It is.
Because I'm not sure that she's explicitly attempting, I don't know, the way that she writes
She definitely is, because I know the rest of the essay, but whether she's got other shit in there, entirely possible. Like for sure she's saying at least what I'm saying. There might be more and I might be not giving it all the credit, but
so
I'm
in the
conclusion
conclusion
trying.
to the essay, she talks about how this was
No, you're cheating.
Okay.
The spoilers.
Yes, no spoilers.
No spoilers. I don't think that she'll resolve this into some dialectical thing where you have to actually consider both. I think that she's giving two contradictory explanations and kind of throwing stuff at the wall and hoping one sticks.
Yeah, and she talks about, and it's a weird language she used, of active scopophilia, which is like trying to borrow almost the, like again, a history of terms. I go right to like Nietzsche, but it's not Nietzsche. It's a lot of like active versus passive, syntheses, this and that. And she's borrowing that language. I don't understand how it's active scopophilia versus. She doesn't say like the other's like passive. The fuck is going on? Like it's just
Right. We
weird
already talked about
language.
how the viewing, she already considered the viewing to be this like passive action.
Yes. But now it's an active scopophilia. But the other demands
Right.
identification of the ego with the object on the screen through the spectator's fascination with and recognition of his like. Now, this is where I fucking have so many issues with this stupid bullshit, because this is like the ideology glasses on steroids in the worst form of them in the simplistic way, because she's saying on the one hand, we have the erotic identity of we're looking like voyeurs, we're aware or broken, and we're seeing it this way. But our placement and our enjoyment, we're able to enjoy because of our like, and I just find it very frustrating as language.
Yeah. She's relying here on a very, very, as she goes on to talk about, like a very Freudian thing, where it's the I looked into this for this piece, the dichotomy between ego libido, and the first one she doesn't really explicate, but is sometimes called like object libido, where it's the sort of the self is not really involved. It's pure like what's the right term? It's pure like libido drive energy. Whereas the ego libido is like more of the maintenance of the self, the reinforcement of the identity through sort of narcissistically.
Pleasures.
Yeah,
the pleasures. It's
Okay.
pleasures, and that's what she's ending with. She's basically saying like the pleasures that are given to you don't, like the perceptual reality. All of this doesn't matter, because what motivates it is the pleasures. These motivate eroticize phantasmagoria. Fucking what a word. But basically, like, you're replacing perception with fantasy, with these idealized images, with emotionally charged imagery and illusions. Film has the ability to make subjective desire feel like objective reality, is what she's stating here.
Right.
That's that last sentence is 100% that affect the subject's perception of the world to make a mockery of empirical objectivity. The phrasing, that's the only way I know how to read that last sentence.
No, yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Because in the indifference to perceptual reality, it's that creating an imagined eroticized concept of the world that then changes or shapes the subject's perception, right? Like that's what she's getting at, right? Like, or at least that's what she's trying to say, right? Is like, oh, by doing so, right? Like then that shapes the way in which they perceive things then on, right?
Sure.
So yeah.
But
and
it's not.
there's
It's also like weirdly not invoking the real or the way it works, at least very well. It seems like to me, like in an ostensibly Lacanian paper, no mention of the real.
no, she kind of is. She kind of is. Because imagery, the images, and this is, I mean, there's a lot of issues with it, but I would say she's doing okay there, because the dichotomy she's playing with and how she's touching into it is that of signification versus the imaginary, and the real doesn't matter. And that's kind of what she's saying. Like, it still doesn't matter here. It's the dichotomy between the two of those, and the tension in it is something that cinema is able to play with directly. And it has to do with your likes, your subjective being made objective in film, in imagery. I do think. Yeah.
Okay, I could see that.
Yeah, that's probably how I'd phrase it, I think. I don't know. Fucking,
Richard,
I don't know
next
anymore.
paragraph.
Yeah.
What am I doing with my fucking life?
During its history, the cinema seems to have evolved a particular illusion of reality, in which this contradiction between libido and ego has found a beautifully complementary fantasy world. In reality, the fantasy world of the screen is subject to the law which produces it. Sexual instincts and identification processes have a meaning within the symbolic order which articulates desire. Desire, born with language, allows the possibility of transcending the instinctual and the imaginary, but its point of reference continually returns to the traumatic moment of its birth, the castration complex. Hence, the look, pleasurable in form, can be threatening in content, And it is woman as representation/image that crystallizes this paradox.
It's just a bad reading of Lacan. That's really what this is. This is just bad reading of Lacan.
I didn't understand any of this.
Let me try. Cinema builds a convincing fantasy space where the kinds of pleasure we've talked about, erotic looking and self-identification, play around together. They both show up, right? The screen resolves this distance or the contradiction. And it doesn't do it in a way that's, fully concrete or actualized, but it's resolving aesthetically as a thing. But it's not done out of nothing. Fuck, I hate this because it's like the opposite of stuff I was doing earlier. This is not freedom, though. It's not freely sort of out there doing its own thing in a vacuum, right? The film and it's structured by the same social shit, the same psychic shit that has produced it, that we've talked about. All the stuff that she's built up, and it's not much, but she's had a couple things. And the patriarchal law, the symbolic law, films look like they're imaginative, but their imagination fundamentally is built out of the same systems that did the rest of this. It's patterned on those same systems. This is, Zizek talks about this. This is a decent way to understand it. So give me 2 seconds. I'm going to try to get through the whole paragraph and then you can ask, because these things are like inferring each other in really heavy ways, and I'm making inferences here. So
I didn't have a question.
Okay, go for it.
Oh, I said I didn't.
Oh, okay. Then where was I? Sexual instincts and identification processes. They have a meaning within the symbolic order which articulates desire. These things only make sense within language. Like ego identification doesn't exist outside language. It'd be stupid. Okay. It only exists culturally. It only exists socially. It is not a natural state. You don't naturally exist with sexual looking. It exists because of language and subjectivity and all this. So the symbolic order, which we talked about again, is the ego ideal. 1 sec. Pardon me.
Bless you.
The symbolic is that system of language. This is, again, Lacan's thing is all of these come together and these things infer on each other and build into each other. The imaginary, the symbolic, and the real. It's not just one of these. It's these things hit into each other. So we need language to have these other things. So when a child enters language, do you know how they do that? That's right, by fucking mirror stage. And why is it the mirror stage? It's because they recognize that their image, the ego, whatever it is, the subjectivity, is not actually fused anymore with just the experience of life purely itself. That's instincts is the word she uses for it here. Drives, right, I think is more common. Same kind of things. Bodily instincts, drives, imaginary self-images, images. Uh-huh. But this is not something done without trauma. It's fundamentally not without trauma. That is because we are ultimately castrated from our own experience. This is Lacan's structured trauma is the phallus. This is why, but the phallus isn't a dick. It's not just dudes with dicks. Some women don't have dicks. It's not that simple. It's the loss and the lack of something, that gap that is built into, I know my experience, but now I also am aware of my experience, the meta awareness that language gives us. Right.
And that you can never capture
exactly
experience with language. Yeah. That's the castration.
And so when you look at the screen, it feels great at the level of the forms of things, but the content might have anxiety, especially for women, is what she's going to say. Not to jump ahead, but That's what she said. The look in pleasurable form can be threatening in context. It's woman as representation image that crystallizes this paradox. I fundamentally disagree with this sentence in every single way. She's done no work to make this statement, nor does she do it later. But what she's saying, and again, no work done here, but what she's saying is that the woman in this, whether it's the woman's gaze or the woman as the object of male gaze, is the point where desire and threat collide. She is visually attractive, but also symbolic of castration.
Hmm.
Which
It's also
Pleasure
weird
and
to use the
anxiety
phrase-
are fused and always playing at each other. All right, that's it. Go ahead.
It's really weird to use the phrase "the look" here, considering that has so much philosophical baggage. But she's not utilizing any of that.
Yeah, and it's again, it's English, so we know she means the look. Just talk about the gaze. Just say gaze. Just say that, because these are words that people have used even prior to her when we're talking about, what that. Again, Bataille writes about this. This was written post Anti-Oedipus, where the gaze is incredibly important and part of the death cycle. Like, this is not. She's not like breaking new ground using this. Why use that language? I don't know. And does she mean, this is why I hate it, does she mean the look, how something looks, or does she mean the act of looking? She doesn't fucking say. It's terrible fucking writing.
Yeah.
Because I could argue
like-
it's both. And that's fucking stupid that I can do that.
Right, and the thing we were going over with Lacan earlier was that the idea of the gaze is about the way that subjectivity is structured, where it can't necessarily its way of like gazing upon things is not like the real, right? It's necessarily that the gaze is the structural impossibility of viewing things like impartially, viewing things not through desire, right?
Well, and this is why, like, again, Under the Skin is like, it just destroys all of this, because it is putting the woman in that position, but there's nothing that, like, there's no, what she's fundamentally building here is interesting in a very simple way, but it requires that everyone have these pre-built structurations within them that she's done no work to build.
Right. It's why I don't think that people really read this paper. I think that the concept of the male gaze is just people basically take it like a slogan.
Right.
That was one of the things we wanted to get at with this, is that they're not really utilizing this conceptually. They're saying people are able to identify with the feeling of like, oh, there's people have had the experience of seeing a film and being like, they're oogling this person in a way that makes me feel uncomfortable. So they can associate this term with like a visceral feeling, but it's not like well built out conceptually.
Oh no.
I mean, it's sort of one of the reasons it caught my eye is in terms of actually covering it, is it sort of does a similar thing as that bad essay we were covering that I think you were there for a little bit of, where it
Probably
takes
not.
this. What was that?
I don't remember being there.
Oh, I remember you in chat saying something like, "Isn't this just Freud, basically?"
Oh yeah, I left immediately.
Yeah. Fair. Sorry, Shakespeare. What was that?
Oh no, I was just gonna say what I was gonna just quickly bring up is like this is something that we did discuss, right? The other thing too, when she doesn't make this distinction, like by saying the look, right? It's like, well, when we discussed this, right? I told you about like the objet a, right? Like the idea of it being something like in the lens, right? That like doesn't allow you to see something clearly, right? And like Lacan sort of goes into that, right? Like that's one of the issues I have with this, is that when it does talk about anything to do with optics, right? It doesn't consider that, that elusive object that disrupts vision, right? And that's really what one of the things that Lacan is getting at. And I know that we discussed that, but I didn't know if you wanted to elaborate that a little bit.
Yeah, no, I mean, I wish I took better notes from our discussion because I had a lot more to say, but I've been a little out of it today. But yeah, one of the reasons that it caught my eye, especially in terms of the things that we'd already covered, is like one of the things in that essay was like the idea of lust, and one of the things I'm like, I think one of the ways I understand that this essay does well is that people are looking for an explanation of like an experience that they're having, like someone, maybe it's a guy, maybe it's anyone, behaving in a way that they find gross, or that but then suddenly there's this word that's sort of given to them, something like the male gaze or like lust, that sort of like structures the way that they can then like have a thing that they can speak to, an experience, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, for sure. And just to make my point about the whole aspect about the disruption of the image, is because when it comes to the birth of the eye, right? It's like the um, the coherent ego, right, via identification, right, is this moment of jubilant recognition, but also misrecognition, which we've already gone into. But the other thing, right, is that like the gaze as stain or blind spot, the eye, right, it's not objet petit a sort of comes into this. And again, this is the thing with Lacan, right? Then you have to bring up all these other things. But the eye by which you consciously see and control is not the same as the gaze. Like that's one thing that Lacan makes quite clear. But rather, it's that elusive object in the visual field that that decenters you, right? Because you realize that you're not the only thing because it can, so to speak, look back almost, I guess is one way of thinking of it, right? But it's something that disrupts your ability to see, because Lacan's point about when it comes to like the eye and then looking at it vis-a-vis the gaze is the fact that the gaze is, or rather, it's not about like the technical ability to see. It's more than that, right? And so that's kind of where I wanted to bring that in as well, right? Is that it's not your mastery of sight. It's something which actually would decenter you. So for her to use gaze in this way is removing that aspect, right? That Lacan is getting into, that there's something there that doesn't allow you to see it clearly, and that actually decenters you, right? That actually makes that misrecognition. So
Yeah.
Okay. Shall we go on?
Yeah. We'll do like one more section and then end off for today.
Yeah, I think so too. We're on page 6 of 13, so if we get to
that's so
7, that'd be
sad.
good. What's so sad?
No, we're gonna only one more.
I know. Okay. Woman
We
as
can do
image.
this again. Don't worry.
Men as, yes, we
Oh, yeah.
will, probably on Saturday. Are
Oh,
you
yeah.
free then?
I'll be real. No, I'll be. Sadly, I think I'm gonna be dead. So
Aww, that's sad to
I know.
hear.
Here's
Am I
your death
invited to
schedule
your?
in that time
Yeah.
window.
Don't worry, I'll be fine next Monday. But over the weekend, I just don't. I'll be fine Monday.
Okay.
Maybe we'll have you on Tuesday then.
Just to mention, this is, you're gonna have to read this entire section all at once, all of A. Just so you know, it's a lot.
Okay. Woman as
for
image,
it.
men as bearer of the look. I see. This is the thing. A.
Oh, yeah.
In a world ordered by sexual imbalance, pleasure in looking has been split between active male and passive female. The determining male gaze projects its fantasy onto the female figure, which is styled accordingly. In the traditional exhibitionist role, women are simultaneously looked at and displayed, with their appearance coded for strong visual and erotic impact, so that they can be said to connote to be looked at-ness. Women displayed as sexual object is the leitmotif of erotic spectacle. From pinups to striptease, from Ziegfeld to Busby Berkeley, she holds the look, plays to, and signifies male desire. Mainstream film neatly combines spectacle and narrative. Note, however, how in the musical song and dance, numbers break the flow of the diegesis. The presence of woman is an indispensable element of spectacle in normal narrative film, yet her visual presence tends to work against the development of a storyline, to freeze the flow of action in moments of erotic contemplation. This alien presence then has to be integrated into cohesion with the narrative. As Bud Buddicker has put it, what counts is what the heroine provokes, or rather what she represents. She is the one, or rather the love or fear she inspires in the hero, or else the concern he feels for her, who makes him act the way he does. In herself, the woman has not the slightest importance. A recent tendency in narrative film has been to dispense with this problem altogether. Hence the development of what Molly Haskell has called the buddy movie, in which the active homosexual eroticism of the central male figures can carry the story without distraction. Traditionally, the woman displayed has functioned on two levels: as erotic object for the characters within the screen story, and as erotic object for the spectator within the auditorium, with a shifting tension between the looks on either side of the screen. For instance, the device of the showgirl allows the two looks to be unified technically, without any apparent break in the diegesis. The woman performs within the narrative. The gaze of the spectator and that of the male characters in the film are neatly combined without breaking narrative verisimilitude. For a moment, the sexual impact of the performing woman takes the film into a no man's land outside of its own time and space. Thus, Marilyn Monroe's first appearance in The River of No Return, and Lauren Bacall's songs in To Have or Have Not. Similarly, conventional close-ups of legs, Dietrich for example, or a face, Garbo, integrate into the narrative a different mode of eroticism. One part of a fragmented body destroys the Renaissance space, the illusion of depth demanded by the narrative. It gives flatness, the quality of a cutout or icon, rather than verisimilitude to the screen. What's a diegesis?
uh,
Diegesis is like what's on screen, basically.
what is within what's happening, sort of. Oh fuck! This is gonna be so much.
Yeah, this one. God.
Okay. If I were to try to simplify, active gazes male, passive gazes female. Women exist as spectacle to be looked at. They are that which we look at. They give examples of lots of hot women.
Yeah.
Like look
the
at
funny
these,
part of these examples is more than half of the examples are musicals in which the appearance is accompanied by a song. So there's like a almost
character. It literally says that.
Way.
How in the musical song and Dex numbers break the flow of the diegesis, because that's so diegetic means within the story, the world, the diegetic storytelling is where the storytelling's within the world rather than being explicitly told to you. So the diegesis being broken is when they go, oh my, oh, you're very sad. Well, Oklahoma, like it's this fucking how it breaks everything with this stupid fucking chunk shows up, because that thing that happens, we break it because we got to look at them women.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
but that's how a musical is written. It's not specific.
She's saying that's why.
Mm-hmm.
I know. The way that she talks about it, I find pretty silly. Where she makes it seem like every appearance of a woman is like a freeze frame of their body parts. Like it's very black and white in the way that she talks about it.
Yeah, like she's basically saying women exist in film to be pure,
to slow things down,
to ruin it, for sure, to interrupt action.
Yeah,
that their job is to be alluring and seductive, and their image breaks the narrative because they're so much that it pulls you from the diegesis of the rest of the shit that's going on. Her visual presence fucks everything up.
The funny thing is, this doesn't even fit with like Campbell or other like ways of talking about film that sort of follow in this vague like.
I'm not a big fan.
I know I'm not a fan of Campbell. I'm just saying, if you're going to talk about things like in this like vague psychoanalytic way, the woman provides like often in those retellings like the meaning upon which things take place. There's like an explicit way that they're forwarding the story and the narrative and the way that things are like put into action. Like that, it doesn't make sense. And that's if you're even going with like the most like garbage basic. Like that's literally like Campbell monomyth shit. I don't know. Like,
well, and she brings up
Campbell monomyth
like,
is more complex than
she mentions a director
version.
and she quotes a director here, Bud, which is just what a fucking name. What happened to Bud? We don't have Buds anymore. I don't know any Buds. Do you know any Buds?
Bud Bodeker.
What a fucking name. And he's basically saying, yeah, women like drive dudes. That's what.
Yeah. That's why I circled this part, because the way that he's saying it, this is also why I like brought up like Campbell and other ways of like the most like basic bitch ass like horrible story analysis stuff.
Mhm.
Even that is more like he's saying the way that she is provoking the story.
Yeah. It's kind of not making her point the way she thinks. But then she even goes and she's like trying to prefigure, and she knows because one, it's a stupid statement, but two, she's like prefiguring, oh yeah, by the way, in narrative film, we've gotten rid of this problem and developed what Molly Haskell has called the buddy movie, in which active homosexual erotism of male figures carry the story. Dude, are you serious?
There's not like hilarious, over the top, egregious like cutaways to them, like it is like weird bonding, like is what's the movie?
Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles would be my first one, where they sleep together that first night in the hotel, and they like the Top Gun is straight up just a gay movie,
right?
It's just a super gay.
But like huge parts of the movie are just like egregious, sort of like.
Well, that's what she's saying though,
reveling in. But that's apparently story to her. That's apparently like driving things forward.
She's saying that the male bond is the organizing energy of the film for that, the male bond. And it's interesting, like her phrasing, again, it's interesting. Male attachment itself replaces hetero spectacle narrative tensions, like as a thing. And it's like, okay, that's interesting. But I have a significant problem in that there's also a significant number of these where it doesn't even apply to mainstream films. Like this doesn't apply to movies, like flatly. Even if women are like side characters or third, and I think of like, just in my head, I'm just thinking of like Hitchcock films, like Vertigo, for example. Like how does Vertigo work into this? Is the women like this doesn't flow for me. The women aren't provoking. There's like, how does it work? How does she see the erotic sort of economy of that film going?
What she's saying, I think, is very true of like shonen anime, though. I mean, the women are just there to be looked at, and they do just like slow down the plot because we have to look at boobs for a couple of seconds.
Sure,
that's fair.
Children's shows.
Yeah, which is crazy. Also, I was wondering, is she saying that the buddy movie is gay in the same sense as she was talking about eroticism before, like in terms of
yep,
you're objectifying the figures on screen, and that's erotic.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
And you can talk about it. Top Gun is actually an interesting one because the woman destabilizes the male homosexual relation. Like You can lay this onto a bunch of stuff. Again, once you've triangulated and made that move, you can put this in fucking any movie. That's one of the fun parts of psychoanalytic thought that I have no interest in. But it's like, oh, the woman shows up and she's the fucking fly in the ointment for the dude's relationship. They're just trying to be men, super not gay. Like that, yeah, sure. And so she then goes on, and that's the second half of this an extraordinarily long paragraph, where she starts talking about how women basically work in two places at once. One is the film's story for male characters. They exist in that way. That's what Bud is talking about. But then also outside of it for the audience who looks at her as pure erotic image. And that's kind of what her secondary point, this is what she's saying at the end there. The woman performs within the narrative, the gaze of the spectator, that of male characters, and that thing. So women in these films work these two ways. I don't understand this mentality, but that's fine. I need someone to make significant arguments for me to believe this, but
Well, yeah, that's why her only examples of this are musicals in which the plot literally often does stop to sing a song, because that's kind of how musicals were written at this period.
Yeah.
well, and I would also argue, especially with musicals, especially of this period or before, the woman's body to be looked at in them, I would argue, and again, it's not even about homosexual. This is why I don't care for like making it these outwardly sexual terms. You go watch some of these crazy dancers from the old movies, dudes, they're mesmerizing. Is it erotic? I guess. Like what? Like they
Yeah.
interrupt shit to do really crazy dances. Like Gene Kelly. Have you
Right.
watched like old, like some of that shit's wild that these guys did, and some of the shit's wild these women did. Does it have to be this register? Is this where we sit whole bodies that gotta fuck and whatever? It's like so stupid.
Right, yeah, and like even on that level, like we looked up just for reference, we looked up some of these scenes from musicals, and it's funny when you look it up on YouTube, most of what you find for like the Marilyn Monroe appearance in The River of No Return is people saying how is like women saying how inspired they are by her like look and poise. It's like I don't know.
But that's also like them admiring her in a in the way that Mulvey is saying, right?
Maybe
If
If
people
so-
think they watch like I hate this. Think of Casablanca and Bogart like has his entry moments. That those aren't powerful charges of some level of what she's calling sexual energy. Fuck off. Like
Right.
fuck off. Like what the fuck? What are we even doing here? Like everyone, he's got the fucking look. It looks down to a boo. Shadows hitting just right. And everyone's like, ooh, like what? How's that not the same fucking thing you're doing with women here? Jesus Christ.
Well, Richard, to answer your question, the reason it doesn't work is because her whole setup here is about the sort of presumed heterosexuality of the look of the camera.
Mm-hmm. But then the female viewers have like an internal male in the whatchamacallit. The guy.
No,
what's the guy's
that's
name?
everyone.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's not turned around like that. This is one of the things that's really going to be important is she's not, I don't think she's saying that women experience a gaze in the same way for men. No. Women experience the patriarchal gaze too.
Wait, so they do or they don't have a male gaze?
No one has a male gaze. The gaze is male, is what she's saying.
And everybody has the gaze.
It sounds so funny to. Everyone's got gaze. I've got like a bunch of gays like sitting around.
Yeah, I've got gaze in my phone.
Yeah, all the gays. I hate this shit so much.
You're one of them,
Okay,
Brooks.
I'm
we
not,
got him.
but I'm not. I'm not just like I'm just not. I don't like. Okay, so here's the thing. My fundamental, I mean, because I may not make it to the readings of this. My fundamental complaint about this is, aside from all the stuff I mentioned, this part I think says it the most. Marilyn Monroe's first appearance in the River of No Return, Bacall's songs into Have or Have Not. It's like, all right, cool, that's great, but 100%. Like, you want to talk about the men and how they show up and how that's done, and it doesn't have to be homosexual that men find a charge in those things or that women do. Again, it's presuming that my existence is already preset into X, Y, and Z, and that image is already preset into X, Y, and Z. I find objectionable at a fundamental level.
Right, she's laying in the thing that she's supposedly critiquing.
Oh yeah. I can see that. She acknowledges that a little bit in was it the second paragraph of the paper? Where she says that we have to use phallocentric. Sorry, was it the third paragraph? Yes, it was the third paragraph. There's no way in which you can produce an alternative out of the blue, but we can begin to make a break by examining patriarchy with the tools it provides, of which psychoanalysis is not the. Like, she says she can't avoid being patriarchal. But yeah, just because she brings up the problem doesn't mean it's not a thing.
Yeah. I mean, if you're using psychoanalysis, I wouldn't necessarily disagree with her in that assessment, I guess. Shall we go on to the next paragraph?
No.
Was that Brooks?
That was 7.5, so we stopped there for today.
If you want to do one more, you can. It gets really weird and we get into labor real fast.
Oh, I thought we were talking about the whole... I was saying finish out this section here.
Oh, the whole section?
I guess it goes for
dude, it's like the rest of the book, isn't it?
B.
Oh, yeah.
C.
Almost
C2.
the rest of the book. Yeah. Yeah, almost the rest of it's the rest of the book except the summary.
Mm-hmm.
I guess if you guys want to do that, you guys have fun. I've got to sorry, I'm driving into a tunnel. You're getting staticky. My signal's going loose. I'll talk to you up. Yep. Hey.
Okay.
Bye, Brooks.
What a jolly old man.
Shakespeare in chat said, I want to hear what Brooks has to say about this vis-a-vis phallocentrism.
Phallogocentrism.
Phallogocentrism by Derrida, the Peeping Tom book. Maybe another time.
Mm-hmm. It's common that the gaze is seen between characters in a story, and that an attractive character can easily manipulate the others. I can't think of an example of this, but sure. I have never heard of Bakuman. I guess I'm not a true shonen enjoyer. Not anymore, am I? You're probably thinking of Batman.
No, I've heard the name before, but I don't know anything about it. It's about two high school boys, artist Morita Mashiro and writer Akito Takiga, who team up to become successful manga creators in Weekly Shonen Jump.
Okay.
Sounds terrible.
Well, that's not what I mean by shonen anime. I mean the one where it's like, I have to become stronger.
Holy Mike Peak. What is Das Boot? A German war film.
I've heard of Das Boot. Or is it Das Boot? Because yeah, it's about a boat.
Das Boot.
You don't know Das Boot? Yeah, I don't. I'm only twee. I just got here. We can have GSL community movie nights or like group watches in the future. That would be fun, I think.
Also, apparently Brooks linked me the wrong thing in chat earlier, so I'll leave you all with this. This is his discussion of the film Under the Skin. Pete Brooks Brown.
Okay.
On the podcast Small Beans.
I was gonna say we should watch that also, but then I realized that wouldn't work because it's probably too NSFW.
It's a good question. We are an 18 plus server,
Yeah.
but NSFW stuff is not encouraged here. So
Yeah. I mean, with
Probably
YouTube.
not. Oh yeah, I mean, yeah.
Oh yeah,
I see
because
what
I
you
would
mean.
I imagine that we would stream it and then instead of all being like 20 people in a group call. Come here, kitty.
No, I think for movie nights you have to basically do it in a group call, and most people are just muted.
Hmm. I saw Aiko
Bob's-
watching like Batman with her stream. Maybe that's only allowed on Kick though.
Was that an animated Batman?
I don't know. I don't know.
Because I know that there's one of the Batman animated series that doesn't get copyright struck. That's like old.
Oh, aerobics is right. We could do a stage event.
Yeah, you can do a stage event.
Yeah.
Bob says, I think Dust Boot would be a good look at Resentiment, due to how these guys were stuck in a small tube with a good chance to die and trying to cope in any way they can.
That reminds
sounds
me of Red
interesting.
versus Blue.
What's Red versus Blue?
It's
Sounds
it's the machinima show of all time.
I never watched that.
It's wonderful. And beautiful and great.
Shakespeare says, what is a really Lacanian movie? Hitchcock, right? Everything Hitchcock. Not just because the name.
I want to rewatch Disney's. Ash Kitty said they want to rewatch Disney's Soul for the philosophical commentary on living and death. I think.
Oh God.
I think Soul is a little bit mid from when I last watched it, but there is this one shot about there's this one like bunch of shots of nature that made me shed a tear when I watched it because I was like, oh my god, when the tide rushes into the sand and the wind blows, it's so beautiful. This is what estrogen does to you.
Sunday says Spy Kids 2. Nice.
I don't have any
I
feelings
remember
about
enjoying Spy
Kubrick.
Kids.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah, we'll do a Spy Kids 2 viewing.
I liked Spy Kids 3, was it? The one where they go in the video game.
That might be 4. Let's see.
No, 4 is All the Time in the World. It's the time travel one.
Damn, you really know your Spy Kids.
I guess I do. I don't remember what's in Spy Kids 2. I remember Spy Kids 1 is where they go into the weird house and there's the hands walking around.
Spy Kids 2, The Island of Lost Dreams.
I love Diary of a Wimpy Kid Roderick Rules.
I've never seen a Diary of a Wimpy Kid movie. They looked horrifying.
They're great.
As a kid who grew up with the books, that sounds like a horrifying thing to subject myself to.
How would that be horrifying? Oh, also, no. I shared a school with Jeff. What's his name? Jeff Kinney.
That's crazy. What?
Hmm. I can't say which school, but I can show you more in the in DMs.
So Shakespeare says someone told me Diary of a Wimpy Kid are envy coded. Oh God, I don't think so. I think it's very like it's very much from like a teenage boy point of view
Mm-hmm. An
or
incel.
middle school. Yeah, yeah, it's like incel middle school boy.
A Marxist analysis of Shark Boy and Lava Girl. Oh, I don't even remember what that movie is about. The Long Haul is weird because they change all the actors. Um, except for the dad, I think. Aerobics NB
Uh,
is non-binary.
yeah, it's a phoneticization of uh the letters N and B as a non-binary,
Yeah.
and then it got turned into a word NB.
Hmm. The one with the cheese touch, I think, is the first movie / book, right? You know the
I don't
books.
remember. I haven't read them since I was 11 years old.
Okay,
So
fair enough. I watched the Diary of a Wimpy Kid movies a couple of years ago because I have a sister that's 10 years younger than me.
Ashkity says I recommend Come and See. Oh, that movie was so good. I think if I'm thinking of the right one. Oh no, I'm not thinking of the right one. What am I thinking of?
I have not seen Weapons.
What movie am I thinking of? Let's see.
I can't watch sad movies. I watched what's it called? Arrival or The Arrival? I don't remember which one it is. But that movie has a pretty sad ending. Or beginning, rather.
Okay, I'm thinking of
If
a
you know the
totally
movie,
different
you
movie
know.
called. I'm thinking of a totally different movie called I'm Still Here. I don't know how those wires got crossed to my.
Hmm. Yeah, the ones with aliens and
Okay.
language.
Totally different.
Mm. No, that's
Come and See.
Arrival. But when I watched that movie, I just like hated everything afterwards. I was like, why the hell would you show that to me, mother?
There's also Now You See Me, the movie about magicians.
Oh yeah! And then the second movie is called Now You Don't.
No way.
Yeah. Those movies are fun. They're like stupid, but they're fun.
Oh yeah, we should see if we can get a pirated version of the third one to watch. I heard it was really bad.
Hmm. Soviet
Although it might not
film?
be funny bad.
I know some Soviet theme. Jimbo, I've been thinking of doing a Neon Genesis Evangelion video on my personal channel.
Ashkity says we could also look at any of Andrei Tarkovsky's movies.
Andrei Tarkovsky. Tarkovsky. Let's look him up.
Ah, looks very Russian.
Yes. Have I seen any of his movies? Let me see. Filmography. The Killers, There Will Be No Leave Today, The Steamroller and the Violin, Solaris, Mirror Stalker, Nostalgia Point Time, The Sacrifice. I don't think I've seen these. Oh, he produced a Hamlet in Moscow. And then he has 2 books. Okay, yeah, I don't know these. His films are considered romanticist and are often described as slow cinema, with the average shot length in his final 3 films being over a minute compared to seconds for most modern films. Let's see. Yeah, I like longer shot lengths, honestly. It feels less like you're watching a movie. It's more immersive. You have Bob Shakespeare?
They were replying to Bob.
Oh, okay.
I have, comma, Bob.
I have comma Bob. Commas are important. Let's eat grandma.
Don't forget to help your Uncle Jack off a horse. Careful with that one.
What?
Just saying, commas are important.
Yeah.
Shall we raid Aiko? I think she's live. It's like no one else is live.
I'd like to, but we can't raid yet. We need 1,000 subscribers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
So, tell everybody to tell everybody you know to subscribe to the GSL so that we can raid into Aiko rules! ! Ooh, we could put her stream link in chat and then end stream. Do you want to do that?
Fair enough.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll grab it 1 sec.
Thank you all for participating and for being good sports. We will set up movie nights eventually, and that'll be fun. We'll probably make a list and then have you guys vote on what movies you want to see.
Yeah, thank you all for joining us.
See you all on Saturday!